I bet by now people are wondering who the hell we are. So, ta-da! Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Dropkicks and Attractions podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dropkicks and Attractions. I am your favorite podcaster's favorite podcaster, Xander and Victus, joined by your favorite podcaster's second favorite podcaster, Big Bach. How are you, sir?
Doing good today, Xander. How about yourself?
Not doing too bad. I have a bad headache, but them's the breaks.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah, burning the candle at both ends, my dude.
I get it.
This is going to be one of our, this is the first time we've ever done a special episode, and I figure, in a way to share the good news that we had over the last couple of weeks, we'd figure we would do like an episode 0. So basically, the good news is first, Dropkicks and Attractions is now a member of the Main Event Wrestling Network. You can find them all over all kinds of social medias and also on their website. There's a lot of podcasters. They have a lot of great podcasts. I've listened into a bunch of them. They're great. They do articles. They do blogs. They do YouTube videos all about wrestling. A lot of it is current wrestling, which is nice because that was a thing we were discussing. We're still going to do the retro stuff. We may join on their episodes. They may join in ours. We're going to keep our format, but you'll get a lot more of the modern wrestling. So go check them out everywhere. Those guys have been awesome so far.
We'll have some of their links in the description on YouTube, Rumble, and the podcast sites.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll just link to the. They have a link tree. We'll do their link tree, and go check them out because, like I said, I've gone to some of their shows and articles, and it's great stuff. So, if you're looking for more modern stuff, 100% go check those guys out. Those guys are awesome. They've been cool to us basically since the start.
Yeah, I've seen some of the content too. I like what I've seen.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. Like, they have one called On the Mark. There's a wrestling podcast called On the Mark. And just fantastic. They just dropped one 2 days ago talking about the King of the Ring that's going on like Raw and SmackDown. And it's great stuff. So go check all these guys out. They're fantastic. So I figure a great way to do this is, I know you and I discussed this a little bit offline. Episode 0 for those we've all established that I'm a massive comic book fan.
Oh yeah.
I think I would say more so than you, but you're still a comic book fan.
Yeah, definitely more than I am.
Basically, my love for like comic book type content and your love for sci-fi is about the same.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Like I'm a very casual sci-fi fan. Sci-fi has never really been my thing. Or like we have a mutual friend of ours that is a gigantic Star Wars fan.
Oh yes.
Like if we need a race for, because he runs all our D&D games as well. That what's this race? Oh yeah, this character and this character and this character. Like he's our Star Wars guy. You're our sci-fi guy. I'm the Marvel guy, basically in our circle.
Yeah, I haven't been into Star Wars as much since they removed Legends from the canon, but that was the stuff I grew up on.
But yeah, I'm just saying, like, as a massive Star Wars fan, he would be the one I would ask any Star Wars questions to.
Agreed.
And James Bond, ironically, also James Bond.
Oh, neat.
He's actually also a big James Bond fan. He has most of the movies.
Don't think that's ever come up.
Yeah. Well, I'm a James Bond fan too, so.
Okay.
Yeah. By the way, it's always going to be Sean Connery, even though my favorite James Bond movie was a Timothy Dalton movie, actually.
Which one was your favorite?
License to Kill. That's the one that had Wayne Newton had a small part, and actually a very early Benicio del Toro was in that movie.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, it was one of the 80s ones. It was Timothy Dalton was the last one before they had the break before Pierce Brosnan. But yeah, Sean Connery is always going to be the best James Bond.
Oh yeah, he's amazing.
Anyway, so basically, tangent aside, because once again, even if it's a special episode, we still got to have tangents.
Can't escape them.
Nope. So basically what an episode 0 is, and I don't know if they do this in sci-fi or whatever, but in comic books, you always have your issue 1, so on. Issue 0, that sometimes they release it as like pre-issue 1, or sometimes it's years later. Issue 0 is basically what happens before the first issue.
Right. How do you get to where the first issue starts?
Yeah, not necessarily the origin story because that's usually episode 1,
Hmm.
but it's how did we get to the point where we have the origin story.
Right.
Like I have a like Avengers versus X-Men, perfect example. The comic book, they had that storyline. It was Avengers versus X-Men.
Right.
I actually have issue number 1 signed
Cool.
with a variant cover too, which is awesome.
That is awesome.
They did when they released issue 1, they released a issue 0, kind of like some of the events that got to the point that started the events that started Avengers versus X-Men.
Right.
This is where you got the whole Phoenix Force split into 5, and 5 different X-Men got part of the Phoenix Force into them, and
Hmm.
yeah, plus maybe you're wondering why Colossus was wearing Juggernaut's armor.
That's neat.
Actually, it's really cool. Imagine Colossus with Juggernaut's armor and just fucking shit up.
I love the image of that.
It's a very, just look it up. Just look up Juggernaut Colossus.
Gotcha.
And I like Colossus. He's not my favorite X-Men, but he's one of, but not my favorite.
Hmm.
I mean, I always got love for Wolverine. We all do.
Who doesn't?
Yeah. He's actually very short in the comics. He's not Hugh Jackman tall.
Did not know that.
I think in the comics, Wolverine is 5'5", if that.
Oh, gosh.
He's about as tall as my mom. Oh, by the way, we are recording this on Mother's Day. So obviously, happy Mother's Day to my wonderful mother. I've already spoken to her today. I got her flowers yesterday. So I'm being the dutiful good son.
I talked to my mom, too. She and my stepdad are out just having fun.
Exactly. Like, my mom's the kind of person, she wants a phone call. She's got all of her adult kids. All she wants is a phone call.
That's pretty much what my mom is, too.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I got her flowers yesterday. She got the phone call today. I'm probably going to call her again later today. So, happy Mother's Day to moms across the world.
Happy Mother's Day.
So basically, and she was actually, ironically, we're talking about, basically, this is like, who are we as wrestling fans? What do we like? Our memories as wrestling fans.
Mm-hmm.
My mom was a big reason I started watching wrestling.
Oh, really?
Like I probably started watching, I'll turn in 42 next month. So I think we're a couple years, I think you were born in 84.
Yeah, 84.
Okay. So you're the same age as my sister.
Okay.
So I started watching wrestling, I want to say 85, like early wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're about the same age, but I have about 20, 30 years of watching wrestling longer than you.
Yeah, I started pretty late.
Yeah, you were about, what'd you say, about 2014?
Yeah, 2014. My first pay-per-view was Battleground that year.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, my first pay-per-view, honestly, I watched it slightly scrambled. Not like TV porn scrambled,
Mm-hmm.
but like it wasn't a official bot pay-per-view, if you know what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
may not have been paid for.
Gotcha.
I was Royal Rumble 92, the one Ric Flair one, which is considered one of the greatest Royal Rumble matches of all time.
Oh, neat.
Was my first pay-per-view I ever watched live. But yeah, so, and my mom was right off the bat, she goes, this isn't real, right? This is all predetermined. Like, she started right away. It's like, look, none of this is, they're not really dropping them on their heads. This is pretend. This is not, this is not real.
Right.
But she encouraged it. She's like, and we had talked about this during, we've done 3 Clash of the Champions so far.
Yes.
And that was like, for us, that was a school time thing for me. And that was over my head. She's like, look, if you don't do your chores, you don't do your homework, you're not watching it.
Mm-hmm.
Because she knew I liked it.
Right.
So, yeah, so I'm talking pre-Raw. Like I think I was Wrestling Challenge before Raw. I remember distinctly, they had the ones where it was like, you had the studio crowd and Vince was coming out in his weird workout pants and they would have, the little interstitials in between, and then it would just have matches from around different house shows or whatever.
Gotcha.
And then I remember the Wrestling Challenge where it was the round table. They talked a little about the round table, about when Mr. Perfect went face in November 92. And
yeah, I never saw that, but I think I know what you're talking about.
there was the clip I think they might have shown it on Raw, or I had shown it to you about, because that was when Ultimate Warrior left the second time. He left about 3 or 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was a round table. It would always be like Vince and Bobby Mr. Perfect would be on there a lot. I distinctly remember Hillbilly Jim doing it a lot. And they would
Mhm.
just be like roundtable discussions about what happened with this, or SummerSlam's coming up, da 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 da, and then they would just show matches in between.
Gotcha. That sounds like a fun concept for a show.
Yeah, but it was basically all it was mostly squash matches from like different house shows.
Gotcha.
You would get the occasional, like there would only be like one or two featured matches. Like our featured match this week, and this is, I don't know if this was ever a match on TV. It's just the match I always use in my head.
Hmm.
Featured match this week: Marty Jannetty versus Papa Shango, and you're like, ooh. But then every other
Gotcha.
match would be like the 2-minute squashes that we're still seeing on Raw in '93.
Yeah, there have been a lot of those.
Yeah, basically Raw was not much different than like a wrestling challenge type show, except the matches were live and it was like an hour instead of like 2 or whatever.
Gotcha.
Because Raw didn't go to 2 until late '90s.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, so well, you know what? We'll go ahead and get into your intros about how you got into wrestling, why you started watching it, and then we'll share memories and some of our favorite things while we go. So go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. This is actually a little weird. Like my wrestling fandom actually came out of Yu-Gi-Oh, if you can believe that.
Knowing you, yes, but go on.
So our mutual friend Aaron Dangle Norman wrestles for the Independents in our area,
Mm-hmm.
and I got to know him through Yu-Gi-Oh, and it was through him that I started watching.
Because you are a Yu-Gi-Oh judge, or
Yeah,
was.
Yeah. I still have my certification. I just haven't done anything with it for a while because I don't care about where the game is right now.
Yeah, but yeah, you were still doing that when when you and I first met about 10 years ago.
About that, yeah. I
Mhm.
was regularly doing it up till about 2016, maybe 2017, when I started working weekends at Walmart. That
Yeah.
pretty much ended it.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Let's
saw
see.
you had a nice little jerseys and everything made. It was nice. It was pretty.
Mhm. So yeah. Konami will actually give you a jersey, one of those jerseys, if you work a high level event like a championship series or the World Championship qualifiers.
Because I believe you said you were at like a level 2.
Not quite. Level 2 in ruling comprehension, level 1 in policy comprehension. Policy comprehension level 2 never got made, or at least it hasn't yet that I know of.
So, but you were doing more than just local weekly.
Correct.
So
Yeah, regional qualifiers are referred to as tier 2. Those were most of what I did.
yeah. So and then you started watching wrestling because like I said, our mutual friend is a wrestler for usually mainly in the Midwest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he got me into it, like when we were hanging out at one point.
Yeah. So like we said, you had just started basically roughly about the same time you and I had met for the most part.
Before that, but not much before.
Yeah. And then, once again, it's one of those wrestling will either get you its hooks in you or not.
Yeah.
Like, there's still casual fans, but for the most part,
Yeah, the thing that really caught me was like realizing they're actually doing those stunts.
Mhm.
They're doing
Use your words.
I know. Just it's not as fake as you might think. Yeah, the outcome may be predetermined, but how you get there isn't.
Oh yeah,
Like,
fake's the F word. Ooh, they don't like the word fake.
right. But yeah, they're really doing those stunts. I mean, they're being careful so you don't hurt anyone, but like they're doing those things for real.
Oh yeah, I like it. We've mentioned it since the start. I trained in it for a couple years. I would never say I was a wrestler. I would say I was a student. I trained in wrestling. I did a few, a handful of shows with the promotion. By the way, shout out to House of Glory, New York, one of the biggest promotions in New York City right now.
Good deal.
I trained there. I was trained by Brian XL and TNA icon legend, however you want to put it. I was a massive fan before it. I'm going to kiss his ass, but I was always a fan beforehand. I was trained by the Amazing Red.
Very cool.
Anybody that knows TNA, especially the X Division around that time, He's the reason. Yeah, a lot of the stuff that you see, a lot of cruiserweight style do, is because of him.
I gotcha. That's neat.
Yeah. Um, and because of them, I actually got to do one show. This is a fun story. One show out of New York. We got to go to a
Hmm.
show in Connecticut, and on that show, and I remember it was actually New England Frontier Wrestling was
Hmm.
the name of the promotion.
Okay.
I remember they're not around anymore, but I just, one of those things you're going to remember shit like that.
Hmm.
On that show, they had a women's match, and one of the women in the match was her. She went by the name Mercedes KV.
Hmm. I know where this is going.
You know where this is going. I've told you this story,
You probably
and I
have.
want to say maybe 6 months later, if not, if not less than a year,
Hmm.
she would get signed by the WWE, and we now then she was known as Sasha Banks, which is now Mercedes Moné in AEW and all over the world now. And so yeah, I did a show with her. Oh God, like I said, not even a year before she got signed.
Cool story.
And you know what? Couldn't have been a nicer person.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard great stories and I've heard horror stories about interactions with them. I'm glad to hear she's a nice person.
Yeah, she was very very nice. And but yeah, and then basically what had happened is I got accidentally kicked in the hand
Ow.
during training, and because I went to the same school. And actually, this was what happened. We were hanging out before the show, before training. We're just joking around, playing around, doing stuff. Before we actually get into training, we're all changed in our gear and stuff.
Hmm.
And I was in the ring with one of the guys from Private Party,
Oh, neat.
AEW wrestlers. Yeah, I was there. I trained at the same school at the same time that they did.
Cool.
I accidentally got kicked in the hand.
Ow.
It was one of those things. It was a freak accident. It was nobody's fault. My hand was just there for some reason. It was
Yeah.
just a misplacement. Nobody's fault. So what had happened, and you've seen my finger. He
Uh-huh.
clipped the inside of the finger. He clipped it with the back of his foot and dislocated it to where the pinky was almost horizontal.
Ow.
Yeah. So I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to suck it up. I'm a man. I'm just going to go, boop, pop it back into place.
I take it that didn't work out.
No, it did. It popped back into place, but as soon as I did, it just swelled up.
Oh.
So I went to the hospital because that's what you do when you fuck your finger up.
Right.
They went to I went to the VA in Lower Manhattan.
Hmm.
Actually, ironically, in the same area. If you ever played the Division, it is a block by block exact area of that part of Manhattan. So I knew exactly where I was at in the Division, which is fun.
You've mentioned that before.
Yeah, like the Flatiron Building is in the Division, which was the same building they used for the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies for the Daily Bugle.
Hmm.
That's the Flatiron Building. It's that triangle building. It's a real place.
Right.
Like it's actually in the Division 1, which I guess Division 2 is block by block exact for DC too.
Gotcha.
By the way, anybody knows me knows I'm a massive fan of that franchise.
Oh, yeah. I played it a bit, never really caught my autistic hyperfocus, but I enjoyed what I did.
Yeah, well, we might have to get you set up for it, and we might have to talk about this.
We may.
Anyways, so I go to the hospital, and they said I got a non-displaced spiral fracture of the fifth metacarpal.
Ouch.
Basically, it was a spiral crack on my finger, on the bone.
Uh-huh.
But it didn't displace it, so they had bone fragments everywhere. It was just everything stayed still. It was just a spiral fracture.
Gotcha.
So they had everything set up. They kind of put plaster and gauze around my last two fingers just to support the pinky finger.
Right.
And gauze and ace bandages. It was very basic. There was never need for surgery or anything else.
Gotcha.
So I go to work the next day. At the time, I was a security guard in a homeless shelter in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
I stood around all night, not really using I'm right-handed. It was my right finger, but I could still, write the logbook. 2:00 in the morning, nothing happened. This was a very chill area for the most part. I never really had any incidences.
Gotcha.
We just stood there and made sure everybody was doing what they were supposed to. Plus, it was the middle of the night, so most of them were sleeping anyways. Because I worked a midnight to 8 a.m. shift.
Gotcha.
So anyways, I go in the next day to work, and I'm like, oh, how's it going? And my boss's boss, she works second shift. She goes, you can't work. And
Huh?
I go, oh, ha, 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 sure. Finger, yeah. She goes, no, seriously, you're a liability.
Really?
Yeah. And here's the thing: you had all these old dudes that work second shift. They were sleeping in the chairs, and I'm like, I stand all night. I don't do push-ups, so I'm doing this, and she's like, no, seriously. I was like, look, I will sign paperwork, waiving any legal recourse. It's one of those things. You know the dangers when you go into a job.
Right, right.
They're like, no, seriously, we can't let you work. Mine,
That
meanwhile,
sucks.
Meanwhile, I'm only in wrestling training. I'm like I've said before, I would never ever consider myself a pro wrestler.
Hmm.
That was my only source of income.
Oh shit.
Yeah. In New York City. New York City. Yeah. Like I was making at the time, this you're talking 2012.
Hmm.
I was making almost $15 an hour, and that is still well below the poverty line in New York City.
Gotcha.
Like I would take food from work. Like they would have like leftover like box lunches.
Hmm.
Like, you would go to the intake and they give you like a box lunch or whatever.
Yeah.
Sometimes I would have those because I didn't have enough money to get food for lunch for
Oh
my lunch
geez.
break. So because one of my best friends, we still talk to this day on Facebook. He actually went to one of my shows too.
Hmm.
Him and his wife are fantastic people. Uh, he always worked that end where the cafeteria was at. I was like, bro, can you like hook me up? Because once
Gotcha.
again, $15 an hour in 2012. Can you imagine $15 an hour in 2024 New York City?
No, I cannot.
Yeah. So, anyways, I'm stuck. I can't go to work. I can't do anything. So obviously I can't pay my phone bill. I was supposed to keep in contact with, my boss or whatever at the actual offices.
Hmm.
Couldn't do it. Couldn't afford to go to the subway. Couldn't afford to use my phone.
What the hell are you gonna do?
Oh, well, first of all, Hurricane Sandy hit. I was in New York City for Hurricane Sandy.
Oh God, I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah. So like where I lived at I lived in Spanish Harlem around 151st Street. We weren't really hit.
Hmm.
There was like tree branches on the ground and everything, but we didn't. There was no real damage where I lived.
Okay.
Um, but there was parts of New York that you remember the news.
Yeah, there were parts that got just obliterated, weren't there?
Yeah, yeah, and there was like the local news was like your channel, your NBCs, your ABC affiliates.
Right.
It was local news coverage for I want to say about 3 or 4 days, 24 hours. It was local news 24 hours for about 3 or 4 days.
Yikes.
And the hospital I used for the VA, because like I
Huh?
mentioned, I've been in the Army before, got shut down because it was lower. It was 23rd Street in Manhattan, lower Manhattan.
Oh.
Got shut down because of damage. So here I am, can't go. I can't go to the hospital because of this. I have no job, can't afford to go on the subway. So it stayed bandaged and propped together. I want to say an extra 6 to 8 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like it just like. So I decided, fuck it, I'm going. I found a VA in Brooklyn that I just needed to get this looked at.
Hmm.
We'll put it this way: when I finally remember, I haven't had any moisture on my skin that had the cotton and the ace bandage there for probably close to 2 months.
Oh geez.
Let's put it this way: have you ever seen the Suicide Squad, the Will Smith Suicide Squad?
I have not.
Okay, for those that have seen it, one of the guys in the Suicide Squad. This is the older one, not the one that James Gunn did. This is the first one.
Hmm.
They're not the same, but it's the same team, but it's not the same. They're not in canon with each other. Even though
Okay.
Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn in both of them, it's a thing.
Okay.
But anyways, Will Smith, that was the one Will Smith did, and one of the guys in Suicide Squad was Killer Croc.
Right.
For those that know, Killer Croc was a Batman villain. You might have played the Arkham games. He was in the first one.
Yeah, I've seen him in the storyline Hush.
Yeah, that or like I said, if you ever played Arkham Asylum, there was a scene where you get chased by him in the sewers.
I never got to that point. I did try it though.
Games are great.
Oh yeah.
Anyways, so I take off my bandages and everything, and this would have been the forearm, the lower forearm, or the forearm of my right arm.
Uh-huh.
I looked like I had Killer Croc scales because it was just so dark and cracked and just all the moisture's just been absorbed out of my arm.
Yikes.
Right? So
Right.
on top of that, around Christmas time, remember, No money, no phone, no real true way to get, like, I could scrounge together some money because I would get my service connection check from the army, so I would have enough money to scrounge for stuff,
Hmm.
but not enough to where I could just, hey, I'm, whatever. Mind you, also because they would consider it a non-workplace injury, they basically gave me most almost not a full paycheck, but basically my one payment was a partial paycheck, and I was out for, like I said, months.
Yeah,
So they basically didn't pay me,
that
right?
sucks.
Yeah. So I'm going through, and I get a letter around Christmas time. So basically, because I didn't keep in contact with him or whatever, stuff that I honestly wasn't able to do because of money, right?
Right?
They fired me
Ah,
by letter. I got the stone cold treatment.
yuck.
So I was basically stuck, no job, no phone. And then I just ended up moving back to Ohio, and that was like 10 years ago.
Hmm.
But yeah, so, anyways, the fun thing was, though, and I want to talk about, like, the big memories and, like, full circle moments, right?
Right?
I watched, it's TNA again. Like I said, we went to go to Against All Odds last year.
Hmm.
Impact, they've changed their name to TNA. And I remember when it was TNA the first time, they didn't have a TV deal. They had weekly pay-per-views.
Right? You've talked about that.
Yeah, you would pay $10, you get a 2-hour show. So basically, for the amount at the time that you would pay for a WWF pay-per-view, you would get 2 hours a week for a month.
Hmm.
Because pay-per-views were about 30 or $40, about $40 a month at the time.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, 2 hours, it was a live 2 hours. It was live, all this stuff. So, one of the first, and I remember when I got back from my first deployment, I would use that as laundry night. I would put the laundry, because the laundry room we had was in a building that was like right next to my barracks.
Uh-huh.
So I would drop the laundry off at the beginning of the show, switch it out from the washer to dryer about halfway through, and then I would be done by the 2-hour show was over. That was
That
my
works out
laundry
well.
night. Yeah, that was just my laundry. That was Wednesday night was TNA and laundry.
Gotcha.
One of the first, and I had to mention this because we had met Frankie Kazarian at Against All Odds, and I told him the story too, because at the time he was X Division champion,
Hmm.
and he had told me that this was actually his first reign with it at the time.
Oh, cool.
There was a best of 3 series. The winner was the number 1 contender, got the next title shot.
Hmm.
Was Sanjay Dutt and Amazing Red, my future trainer.
Cool.
And I had no idea who this dude was at first, because, like I said, a lot of TNA guys, I didn't know who these guys were, because it was WCW and WWF. I had just dabbled in the independents at the time.
Gotcha.
So I didn't know. I was like, what the fuck is this guy? And I called my buddy up, and I was like, dude, this dude is better than Rey Mysterio. Because you're still talking 2003, 2004 Rey Mysterio.
Gotcha.
Like, I was like, what the fuck is this dude? Shit I had never seen before.
Hmm.
So, fast forward, oh God, almost 10 years later. The last match I ever got to do for House of Glory.
Hmm.
Because I was doing a spot where the match was Sanjay Dutt versus the Amazing Red.
Amazing Red, sorry.
So yeah, the Amazing Red. 10 years later. So basically, I went from watching that match on TV to taking part in it almost 10 years later. It was like the last show I ever got to do for House of Glory.
I love that story.
Yeah, and there was a base thing, like Sanjay Dutt had this thing. He was the bad guy calling out stuff. He started beating up on one of the students. We're all in our students, we're all in our hoodies and everything. We're trying to break it up. He starts kicking our asses. Like, he actually throws me up against the guardrail. It's fantastic.
Ooh.
By the way, Sanjay Dutt couldn't be a nicer dude.
Good deal.
But he was just like, we're coming up, we're trying to get to him. He's like, hey, can you stop? And he just starts fighting us, right?
Right?
And out comes Red. And it basically turns into a lumberjack match.
Oh, gosh.
Because they start fighting, and everybody surrounded the ring. Every single one of the students that was there when that was happening has now surrounded the ring.
Oh, boy.
So I got to be there ringside, like touching the mat as a quote, not really lumberjack, but we're surrounded the ring, basically.
Right, lumberjack match in all but name.
Basically. And So yeah, for me, from watching it on TV to actually taking apart in another version of that match, like 10 years later, is my final House of Glory show I ever got to do.
Hmm.
It's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah. I wish I could tell stories like you, King. You are so good at this.
Well, people have said this before to me at work. I have, and I don't think I have, but if you look about it, I've done some crazy shit in my life.
You really have.
I don't think I've done much of anything. I'm just a guy, but they're like, no, like, the stuff that's happened to me is just, it's fallen into my lap.
I get that.
You know, like some of the stories I tell about when I was in the army, they're like, what the fuck? You know,
I get you.
I got so drunk I thought my cab driver was Santa Claus one night.
Oh gosh.
You know, after we prevented one of my buddies, we called Corn Fed because he was from Nebraska, who liked to drink. We tried to keep him from getting in a fight, and then we took a taxi back to the hotels, and I was like, psst, I think our cab driver's Santa Claus. I said it that loud.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I spent a lot of
Wow.
time in Austin. Anybody that knows 6th Street in Austin, if you know, you know. By the way, my favorite Cuban restaurant is in Austin.
Cool.
As far as I know, like I said, I've been out of the army since 2008. Okay, what was the first live event you ever went to?
Just in general, or for one of the big events?
Just in general.
Pretty sure. Oh, it was Aaron's debut match down at an itty bitty promotion near Dayton.
Was that Rockstar?
No, Star Wrestling Alliance.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I knew Rockstar was a thing back then. Yeah. So what did you think the first time you ever went to live wrestling? How was? Because I know you're very shiny keys, easily amused, and I'm not
Indeed.
saying that in a bad way. You're very look at the shinies.
I
From
mean,
only
you're
seeing
not-
it on TV to going to it live, what kind of culture shock was that for you?
The atmosphere at a live show is different.
Uh-huh.
I mean, something my stepdad once mentioned, like the lack of commentary at a live event, he didn't care for that. But honestly, for me, it didn't make that much of a difference. Like less commentary, no commentary means I could focus more easily on the action.
Yeah. Like, it's like that with sports. I've been to, obviously college football. I went to college. Shout out, go TU, go Dragons.
Mhm.
And I've been to 3 different baseball stadiums and then minor league. So I can do it's sometimes it's fun to watch with no commentary, and then you can go back and watch. Maybe the commentary can have you pick up other things.
Right. Yeah.
That doesn't bother me. Commentary doesn't bother me.
Yeah, I went back and watched Against All Odds after we went to that show.
And
That
I
was
saw
fun.
it in the crowd, by the way.
So yeah, we were pretty clear on the hard cam.
Yeah, we were facing the hard cam the whole time. We were behind. If you saw where the commentators were sitting at, if you looked at the commentators, then looked up on the screen a little bit, you could see us.
Yeah.
By the way, that was my first ever live. I guess you could call it TNA now event. You knew nothing about TNA before that.
I did not know the slightest thing.
Yeah, but my first ever live event, and this was weird because I went big.
Mm-hmm.
Was in 2001. I was 19. It was 4 months before I joined the army. I was at the Invasion pay-per-view.
Cool.
My first ever live event, because I think my parents got me my ticket, the money for my ticket for my birthday, because it was about a month after my birthday. And we went to a bunch of us. It was our mutual friend, like who I've known him for almost 25 years. I've known his wife since we were 12. So I've basically known these people off and on the majority, 3/4 of my life. I've known either him or her.
Gotcha.
We're going to spend the night up there. We spent 2 days up there. No, no, the night. But anyways, we went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and then we went to Invasion because it was in Cleveland.
Right.
And when I tell you the shitty hotel we stayed at.
Oh boy.
Oh my god. One, it was kind of crazy. It did have an arcade in there.
Oh, neat.
It had a baseball game. And I think X-Men Children of the Atom for some reason.
It's not a bad fighting game.
No, but it was just, I think that was the one, because I remember Omega Red was in there, which, out of all the characters, I'm going to remember Omega Red.
Because, of course.
Yeah, well, because that's the one that's, because of course all the other X-Men, but I specifically remember seeing Omega Red on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not an A-level X-Men villain, but if you read enough X-Men comics, people know who he is.
Right.
We're not talking about Forget-Me-Not, the X-Men that no one knows exists, because that is a real canon X-Men character. That's basically, he's Deus Ex Machina, the character.
Huh.
There's a character called Forget-Me-Not, where his special power is, as soon as you turn your back or blink, you're like, who are you? Oh, I'm Forget-Me-Not. Okay, cool, turn your back. Who are you? Like, you lose all memory of him. Like, it's a joke character, but, like, you lose all memory of him as soon as he leaves your line of sight.
Huh.
And that's how they explained, like, oh, what happened to all this? Oh, it was Forget-Me-Not. Nobody knows he exists ever, because as soon as he leaves your line of sight, everything, vision, memory of him is gone.
Huh.
So nobody knows he exists because no one knows he's there.
Right.
This is a real X-Men character. It's part of the 616 universe, which is the main Marvel universe.
Right.
It's fantastic. It's great. This is, once again, 100% a real character. But anyways, so we go to this hotel, and it's a shitty hotel. And we go there. Not only do they said they gave my buddy and his wife the wrong room because it was filthy. I distinctly remember 23 years later, because this was 2001,
Mm-hmm.
there was a bucket of chicken bones still sitting on the table.
What?
Yes. So we go, and when I say, and you and I we talked about this recently because we go to cons, we travel a decent amount.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason I don't do shitty hotels.
Right.
I try not to, unless it's a last resort. You know, if the door's on the outside, I'm good.
Gotcha.
And this was bad. And so we're going through just overall the hotel. I mean, it had breakfast. It did have the hotel waffle maker. So it did have that going for it. Because if I can't have my hotel waffles. And then we found a shitty ass pizza place. And then we go to Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. By the way, the person that drove us was a horrible driver. I thought we were going to die at certain points. Worse than you. Worse than
what?
You. Yeah. Worse than you. Because you're a shitty driver. We go to the Rock and Roll. By the way, had a blast.
Mm-hmm.
They had a Bob Dylan exhibit there, which was cool. And they had this thing, and I don't know, like, once again, this is 20-some, nearly 25 years later. They had this thing where you would go in and watch, like, this little film. It was, like, clips of everybody that had been inducted at this point. And up to that point. And then you go through a different door, and they have all these little kiosks with headphones to where you can listen to, like, their greatest hits or, like, clips of their greatest hits, you know?
Right.
And you know me and my buddy, him and I together is a bad idea.
Yeah, I've heard lots of stories from you, both of you, about you getting in trouble.
You've seen it.
Yes, I have.
We don't do anything bad, but we're just kind of like, oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah. We tease that his wife is basically our chaperone. But, like, we have no shame. We'll be the guy we'll rip our shirt off and swing it over our head if we have to. We have no shame.
Right.
Nothing bad, but we're the ones that are like, oh, fuck.
You'll act out for the sake of acting out.
Yeah. Like, nothing disruptive for the most part, but it's just like, we have no shame.
Yeah, you get into whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah.
Like, really into it.
Mm-hmm. Which is fun when you go to live wrestling, because we're the guys, we're not the toxic wrestling fans, but we will talk trash to the wrestlers the whole match, every match.
Right.
We will talk, we're the ones that will boo the bad guys and talk trash, but nothing that's going to get us, jumped after the show, because we're not stupid.
You'll talk trash, but you'll be respectful about it.
Yeah, like, for me, they had a Monsters Ball match. By the way, PCO was at this show. We saw him at last against All Odds. He was wrestling in a Monsters Ball match. The guy he was wrestling, he came out with a female manager, and I was just like, Madam, I boo you. Boo on you, madam. Boo you. Madam, boo you. Just, that's how I say it.
Right.
And I go, I hope he thrashes him thusly. Or I will talk shit, but it's like, I'm not gonna, be cruel about it or a fucking creep or whatever.
Yeah,
Because I'm there to have fun.
right.
And I
You're
want to
not
be
there
able
to take the fun away from anyone else.
that I want to be able to be invited back to shows.
Right.
Because you can't go to wrestling shows if you're banned.
Of course.
So, anyways, they have I told you about the kiosks and everything.
Uh-huh.
We decide, hey, let's listen to Queen. Mind you, we're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Museum on a Saturday afternoon.
I bet there were hella lines.
In Cleveland. No, not so. There was a bunch of them, but it's just you're in roughly downtown Cleveland. You're right there by, you're out there on the water, but not too far from down. It's walkable from downtown Cleveland.
Gotcha.
Like you're familiar with the area. You're from the area, so you're familiar where it's at.
Yeah.
So like I said, it's walkable from downtown.
Mm-hmm.
I've done it. So we put on our headphones, and out of not my favorite Queen song. My favorite Queen song is "The Show Must Go On."
Amazing song. It's probably my favorite too.
It's fantastic. By the way, I would say almost top 3, if not top 5. Queen is one of my favorite bands ever to this day. At most top 5. But "The Show Must Go On" is actually my favorite Queen song.
Yeah, Freddie Mercury did the vocals in one take for that?
Yeah, he was severely riddled with HIV. He took a swig of vodka and said, all right, let's go. One take.
Yeah, I saw that online somewhere, but I don't remember where. That's an amazing story.
Yeah, he was so sick because of the HIV and the AIDS. He took a swig of vodka and he's like, all right, let's go. One take. As sick as he was.
Oh, yeah, and he killed it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But anyways, so you know enough Queen, right?
Yeah.
You know how we're both knuckleheads.
Right.
What song did we pick?
Come on.
Think about it. This is not a hard... I'm giving you a softball question.
Hard Knock Life or something like that?
From Queen?
Like, I don't...
I said Queen, not Jay-Z.
Oh, God.
Queen. When you think of Queen, and you got two knuckleheads that are going to sing to this song, what song did we pick?
Don't Stop Me Now?
Okay, that's a much better choice, but no. Think about it. What is the Queen song that literally everybody knows the words to?
We Will Rock You.
No, but yes. But no.
You're the Champions. Everyone knows that.
Think about Queen. Like, I'm giving you literally the easiest answer. I basically gave you the answer in the question. What song
Fat Bottom Girls?
No. More than that. What's more popular than Fat Bottom Girls? If there's a Queen song that's more popular than We Will Rock You, it would be...
Dude Looks Like a Lady?
That's Aerosmith, you dumbass.
Oh my God, I'm so bad at this.
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh my God, I'm an idiot.
Yes, you are.
How did I not get that? Like, duh. I have that song on my playlist, for God's sake.
I don't need it for the playlist to know the words to that song. So, we decide, because each kiosk came with 2 headphones, right?
Right.
We're going to wear the headsets and sing it to each other full volume.
Oh, boy.
In the middle of this busy city on a Saturday, in the middle of this very busy museum. His wife walked off and left us there. So do you know what we did?
Got a cab?
No, we finished. We finished the song and found her later.
That is amazing.
Yeah, so this was the day before Invasion, right?
Right.
And so we go, and this is when MTV was still doing Sunday Night Heat.
Mm-hmm.
And we were at the merch stand right there. I don't know if you've been to the Gun Arena. When you go in the doors, there's that big merch stand area right up front. Once you walk inside.
I haven't been. I was there once, like 25 years ago. I don't remember any of it.
So you walk in. I've been there 3 or 4 times for, like, I've seen pay-per-view. I've seen Raw, and I was actually there for Metallica, too.
Cool.
By the way, fucking amazing concert. But you go in, and then there's a merch stand, like where they would sell merchandise for whatever events there, whether it's the Cavs or concerts or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So we get there, and we see a guy setting up, but he has one of the big cameras, right?
Right.
And of course, we're all like, woo, woo, woo. And he's like, no, we're just setting up. We're not there yet. Okay, cool. So we go get our seats. And we are on the WWF side, way up by the luxury boxes. But we're close to the ramp where the WWF wrestlers came out. Because if anybody's ever seen Invasion, WWF came out one ramp. Very similar to how AEW kind of does it, where there's the 2 ramps.
I know what that looks like.
Yeah, so basically it's the same thing. You had the WWF guys come out one side, and the WCW, ECW came out the other, met in the middle, and it went down. It looked like a
Yeah,
Y. Like
yeah,
once again, if you've ever seen like AEW used to do this. I think they have one ramp now, one entrance, but you know what I'm saying. If you watch AEW, you've seen it.
yeah. I've seen it.
So we go to sit down, and about 20 minutes later, they're showing, here comes, a release where they start setting up, they're showing Sunday Night Heat. They showed on the Titantron.
Right.
Yeah, not even a half hour later from where we were standing, we could have been on MTV.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm just like, motherfucker. But it was cool because my buddy, one of my buddy's all-time favorite wrestlers is Mick Foley.
Mick Foley's amazing.
Yeah, by the way, if you haven't yet, but him and I and his wife went to go see it. If you ever get a chance to go to Mick Foley's spoken word, he does like a live show. It's a very spoken word type thing. Telling story. He'll ask questions from the audience and tell stories. Amazing storyteller.
You got me a Mr. Sacco signed as a gift. I still have it.
Yeah, but no, if you guys get a chance to go, very well priced. We got the VIP package where it was early seating, or not early seating, but first seating. We got to go to the show. We got a special meet and greet with an autograph. Oh, this other, $50.
That is a good deal.
Yeah. By the way, if you ever get a chance to go, I will go again. It's an amazing show. But anyways, so my buddy's freaking out because he didn't realize Mick Foley was going to be there. Mick Foley came out twice that night. He was the special referee for the referee match, and then he was also special referee for the tag team Brawl and Panties match. So we got to see, not only did he not realize Mick Foley was going to be there, he got to see him twice.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I was so horrible. And we also didn't know Stone Cold. This is, pre-internet, pre-rumors, pre-all this shit, right?
Pre-dirt sheets, basically.
No, dirt sheets have been around forever, but I'm talking about this is pre-internet.
Oh, okay.
Dirt sheets, Dave Meltzer's always been around forever.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
He was on Donahue at one point.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I thought the internet popularized that phrase.
No, internet had to let it go out faster.
Okay.
Dave Meltzer's been around since at least the 70s or 80s.
All right, I gotcha.
Yeah. So anyways, none of us had any idea Stone Cold was turning heel that night. If anybody's seen the match, the end of the match, he turns heel on the WWF team. We lost our shit. We had no idea. So
I bet that was a hell of a moment.
Me and my buddy looked at each other and our jaws just dropped. But we were also there for that that hardcore title match between Jeff Hardy and Rob Van Dam, which was WWE voted it as one of their top 10 matches that year. That's the one where he RVD gave Jeff Hardy the Van Daminator and knocked him off, because when you had the ramp, the ramp area I told you about, they had that big open area that just went down to the floor.
Right.
He gave Jeff Hardy a Van Daminator that knocked him into that hole.
Oh gosh.
It was a great match. But we, and it was also fun because I got to do the Worm Chant, because the match for Sunday Night Heat was Scotty 2 Hotty versus Chavo Guerrero. So we got to do the Worm Chant, which was awesome.
Cool.
Yeah. Speaking of Chavo, which I didn't even realize till just now, big moments I've been on shows with Chavo, right? 2010. This was when they're towards the tail end, and when they were doing that whole failed general manager, where it was a different celebrity or whatever every week as a general manager. It did not work.
It doesn't sound like it would have been particularly entertaining.
It was not. It was just you could tell the ones that were wrestling fans, but the ones that were just there to plug their shit.
Right.
You can easily tell the difference.
Gotcha.
Well, we hadn't planned on going because we thought The Rock was going to be the general manager for a night. I was like, cool, it's The Rock, it's whatever. Like I said, I've been watching wrestling since the early 80s, mid-80s. My buddy's a little bit longer. He's a little bit older than I am. But roughly, we've been watching wrestling around the same time. When they said Bret Hart was going to be the general manager, we're like, we're fucking going.
Oh.
We got tickets about 3 weeks before the show. Mid-level. We were mid-level. So we were not only were we there for Bret Hart's return to WWE for the first time since '97 because of the Montreal screw job.
Right.
We actually got to be there in the crowd, and they still video about this and take pictures of it to this day. Him and Shawn Michaels burying the hatchet in the ring.
That's
We
still your Facebook profile pic, isn't it? You
No,
with
that's
Bret
when I
Hart?
met him. That's when I met him, but this was years ago. Years before
Gotcha.
that. But anyways, this was before that was after this.
Okay.
But anyways, we were there for when him and Shawn Michaels buried the hatchet in the ring.
That must have been a hell of a moment.
Yeah. And the funny thing was, the dark match before, because they were still doing superstars back then. This was 2010.
Uh-huh.
It was the pre-show dark match was Chavo Guerrero versus somebody making their debut. So I got to be there because when they announced his hometown, everybody knew it was, and we lost our shit.
Uh-huh.
So I got to see Chavo Guerrero versus making his WWE debut, fucking Bryan Danielson.
Oh, hell yeah.
So when we heard, here comes Chavo doing his whole thing, and then when everybody heard from Aberdeen, Washington, he
You
honestly
do.
got one of the loudest pops the whole night.
I'm not surprised.
So and there was three guys when I first started watching the Indies in the early 2000s. There was three guys that piqued my interest.
Mm-hmm.
Was Reckless Youth. That's one of those guys. If you know Reckless Youth, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Amazing wrestler. I
don't
already know
know
you
him.
don't. I already know you don't because this was like you had. I already knew. That's one of those. It's like I didn't even have to ask. I already knew that you had no idea who that is.
Okay.
Just look up Reckless Youth matches, and it's spelled Reckles.
Gotcha.
And it's one of those you watch him, you'll understand why I love him.
Okay.
Knowing what the kind of wrestling I watch and the kind of stuff I like and the wrestlers I like,
Mm-hmm.
look up Reckless Youth, you'll understand.
Gotcha.
Low Key. He was Senshi in WWE. He's done Caval or all this. Or Caval in WWE. He was Senshi for a while in TNA.
Uh-huh.
Low Key, by the way. And
Yeah.
Bryan Danielson.
Right.
So I got to see. And we didn't know he was going to be there. This is the dark match before all the other shows.
Right.
Like they did the Superstars record, this, like I said, they were still doing Superstars, so we got to be there for the TV tapings for Superstars, Raw, and all this, that, and the other.
Gotcha.
So they're not going to advertise, the show early dark match before everything else is going to be,
Right.
So when we heard Aberdeen watch, and everybody's doing all his ROH chants and everything, it was awesome.
It sounds like it was awesome.
Yeah. But then, like I said, indie shows. I legit was just an indie show not even a week ago.
Mm-hmm. You told me about that.
By the way, anybody that's in the Ohio, Michigan area, you go to IWR. It's a promotion that's run by Rhino.
I've heard lots of good stuff about it. I want to go sometime.
We already said we're going to go. I'm going to talk to our friend here after the show. There's a lot of, if you follow Midwest, indie wrestling, you're going to know a lot of the guys that are there. A lot of TNA guys. Just in one show, we got the Rascals, because Trey Miguel and Myron Reed were there, so we got the Rascals. We got Rhino. They had Jason Hotch from the Good Hands was there. We got Jake something. We got Madman Fulton. Tom Latimer from the NWA. Who else was there? Ben Boone, for people that know it. Midwest Indie Wrestling was there.
I know him.
Literally, when I say there was a lot of people there that people, if you follow indie wrestling or TNA, a lot, and this was on a Wednesday.
Gotcha.
And granted, the place was hot because we're in the fairgrounds, so the building was hot as hell.
Uh-huh.
We got there for the pre-show because, we're all the same. We like to sit ringside as close to the ring as possible because we like being part of the show. We like cheering and booing and, talking trash to the wrestlers and everything, right?
Right.
Because our friend was there, too.
Mm-hmm.
He was there was a tag team battle royal and he was in it.
Oh, cool.
So we wanted to go boo. We want to be as up close as can so we can boo the shit out of him.
Of course.
As you do to your friends.
Because of course.
We got there at 6. Pre-show started at 6:30.
Okay.
For it's the VIP shows. They got a lot of the pre-show matches. We got out of there, and this was after we had stopped and talked to some of the wrestlers after the show, right?
Right.
We were heading to the parking lot at 9.
Oh, very compact show then, it sounds like.
There was a lot of matches. None of them were. The show flowed well. None of the matches were bad either. They were all good matches. It flowed well. The time was the matches didn't seem like they're dragging. Everything flowed well. Boom. The only intermission they had was before the main event, And that was so they could put up the cage because the main event was a cage match.
Gotcha.
And that still maybe took 15 minutes. So
Good deal.
even with that intermission, we were out of there 3 hours.
And did you get your money's worth?
Yeah, because like I said, the meet and greets before the show. By the way, concessions were cheap. Like they had pop that was $1.
That's actually not a bad deal.
No, like concessions were cheap. All the wrestlers that we talked to, like I got to meet, once again, I finally got to meet Trey Miguel. Finally, got his new shirt.
That's like you post about that on your ex.
Yeah, no, we're actually Twitter mutuals, and it's just great to finally meet the guy I've been watching for a long time.
I gotcha.
Like I've seen him live a few times, but I never got to get the picture and the handshake. And I got his new T-shirt, which looks sick as hell.
Gotcha.
We met Myron Reed. Both the Rascals were there. Two-thirds of the current Rascals were there.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I always talk to Ben Boone every time at a show because I've been at enough shows that we'll chat for a little bit.
Good deal.
Sam Beal was there. Of course, like I said, we've been watching Sam since he was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
So he
we
was
saw
there.
him at Sorry.
Go.
Yeah, I remember we saw him at NOW with Ace Miles more than once.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like now.
Gotcha.
Talked to Ace Austin for a little bit. We had to do the 2 Sweet, Bullet Club. It's required you have to do the 2 Sweet. It's the rules.
Of course.
But yeah, no, 3 hours. That's it. And it was every match. Like I said, it all flowed well. Like we understood. You weren't lost. This is the first time I've been to the show and I wasn't lost.
Gotcha.
And it was relatively family friendly for the most part.
Good deal.
Yeah. So yeah. But like I said, I've been to indie wrestling. Oh God, I've been going to indie wrestling since 2014. Like I followed it, but I was never really in an area to go watch it.
I gotcha.
But we go all the time now. I've been to TNA. I've been to Raw. I've been to a SmackDown. I've been to a pay-per-view. And I've actually also been to a house show in Texas.
Cool.
This was about a month and a half before Randy Orton won the title from Chris No Name at SummerSlam that year.
Yes.
Yes. So yeah, like I've been watching wrestling live for almost 25 years.
Got a lot more background than I do.
Once again, like I said, I also have about 30 years on you too.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah. I was actually not actually at the event. I was also, I told you this story, and I think this is the best time to tell this story.
Mm-hmm.
Is I was at when they announced the SmackDown in Baghdad, when they used to go to Iraq every year around Christmas time.
Uh-huh.
I went to one of the signings because they would go around to all the different bases they were over there for like a week or so. So they would go to all the bases for like, meet and greets or whatever. And then they would have the show.
Gotcha.
I think all of them but one of them was in Afghanistan in 1 year, but all of them when they went overseas was in Iraq every year. I think, like I said, except for one was in Afghanistan.
Uh-huh.
So I was actually going home for leave. They called it mid-tour leave. Partway through your tour, you were allowed to go home, I think, for like 2 weeks or something.
Okay.
And I just got lucky that my first deployment, I got to go home. I got to be home for Christmas. Christmas and New Year's, I was home.
Gotcha.
Which, in the middle of a deployment, I consider that very fortunate for that.
Agreed.
So, I was like, hey, we're going to be stuck at this base for a couple days. So I went to the PX, the exchange.
Right.
I bought what they called Pogie Bait, which was just like snack food. It was just like, oh, I'm just going to sit around, beef jerky, Cheez-Its, whatever. Shit to eat while I'm sitting there for 2 days.
Gotcha.
Like I said, it was just like, shit I eat now, like beef jerky, Cheez-Its, Triscuits.
Right.
Something so you're not just sitting there bored, you're snacking while you're fucking around for a couple days.
Right.
And I'm getting ready to leave, and I see a sign that says, oh, meet. And we already knew they were in country. I meet, and there's a sign that says, meet WWE superstars, line starts here. Okay. I'll meet a couple. I figured they were just going to be like a few here, a few there. Everybody would go, you're going to go to this space, whatever, right?
Uh-huh.
Spoiler, I wasn't expecting literally everybody that was on the first SmackDown in Baghdad, or the first tribute to troops, to be there.
Holy crap.
Literally, if you ever watched the first tribute to the troops, the very first one, every single person that was on that roster was there.
Cool.
So I go in, and I'm going to wait in line, and I'm waiting, and waiting, and waiting, and waiting, I waited so long. I didn't want to go to get dinner because I didn't want to lose my spot because I was literally the first person in line.
Gotcha.
So I started eating all my snacks. Here's I don't know if I told you this part. Here's a fun story. How long do you think I waited in line?
I would say 4 hours.
5.
I was close.
You were close. 5 hours.
Oh gosh.
And they were running late too.
Oh, that's probably.
But
why.
it was nobody's fault. It just shit had happened. And when you have logistics in this kind of a weird situation, makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
So I waited in line. It was dark when they got there.
Gotcha.
And I remember they were finally going through and whatever. And I'll never remember this. This is why I'll never shit on this guy. The first person I met coming through the door was John Cena.
Oh, cool.
And this was before WrestleMania 20. So this was before he wasn't as huge as he was then. And like I said, this was probably not even 6 months before he won the U.S. title from Big Show at WrestleMania 20.
Okay.
So this was still like upper mid-card John Cena. This was not Super Cena, lol, whatever.
Gotcha.
First thing he does, before I get to say, hi, how are you? Can I get a picture? Whatever. Shakes my hand and then apologizes for them running late.
Good deal.
Yeah. I didn't know him from Adam. And he was like, I apologize. We're running late. I'm so sorry. Got a picture with him. Could have been a nicer dude.
Awesome.
So I got pictures with him, Stone Cold, Rhino, Shelton Benjamin, Tori Wilson, Dawn Marie. I think I got a picture with Sable. I got a picture with Rhino. I got a picture with Vince McMahon.
Oh, wow.
Because, you're not going to see him at fucking Cricket doing a meet and greet.
Yeah, definitely not.
But he was in there with everybody else. And I tell you, regardless, all the situations now, I've met celebrities of different, like, movie, TV. I've met dozens of wrestlers.
Right.
I've been starstruck one time. I've been speechless. No, okay, I take that back. I've been speechless twice. Second time was Bret Hart. Because it's Bret Hart. I was speechless. The only other time I've been starstruck meeting somebody that you would consider a celebrity is Vince.
It was Vince?
It was Vince. Not Stone Cold. Not John. I met Eddie, one of my heroes, one of my Mount Rushmores. I met Eddie Guerrero that night. I met Chris No Name. Because this was years before all that stuff. I was a massive fan. He was actually one of the guys I wanted to emulate to be a pro wrestler, style-wise. Style-wise, not personal-wise.
Right, of course.
I was a very big fan of his work. Actually, the two people I wanted to emulate was him and Jamie Noble. I was a big Jamie Noble fan. That's the kind of style I like.
Gotcha.
So anyways, I go to, and by the way, Vince is jacked. That is not like mirrors or a suit or anything. He is jacked.
Good deal.
And I go up to him, and I'm just like, he goes, "Hey, how are you, kid?" Like, the Vince growl is real. That is not for show. The Vince growl is, "Hey, how are you, kid? How you doing, pal?" Pat me on the back, and I go, "Excuse me, sir." Like, and I'm basically almost verbatim. Like, I was like this. Excuse me, sir. Once again, fucking Vince McMahon. And I was like, excuse me, sir. Could I get a picture? Yeah, pal. Come on. Puts his arm around me. Hands camera. Hey, can you take a picture for us? Couldn't have been a nicer dude. I get the whole thing now.
Yeah.
But in that moment.
Right.
Couldn't have been a nicer. And like I said, because of SmackDown and WWE, I've met 5 Playboy cover girls. I've met some of the biggest wrestlers of all time. Literally like Mick Foley, Stone Cold, John Cena. You know what I'm saying? Like ones my mom knows.
Gotcha.
It's the mom thing. If your mom knows who a wrestler is, they're a big name.
Right.
I've met some of the biggest in like history.
Right.
The one I ever got starstruck from was Vince McMahon. Wow. There's a twist to this story. So I told you all the pictures that I took, right?
Right.
This is 2000. I didn't. Digital cameras were a thing, but they weren't really huge yet, right?
Right.
I bought a disposable camera. I go to
Oh
get the
no.
pictures developed. Yep. Guess what the disposable camera didn't have?
There was no film in it?
No, it had film in it. There was no flash.
Oh.
So the Stone Cold picture, the John Cena picture, the Vince McMahon picture, the Shelton Benjamin picture, underdeveloped because there was no flash.
Oh my gosh, that is awful.
I got one picture out of it. Granted, this is a huge picture. Well, because the camera I had left had a flash, so I got one picture out of this. It's in a shoebox somewhere.
Uh-huh.
I have a picture. And you'll appreciate this considering what we've been covering lately.
Uh-huh.
And I'm still a big fan of him. I do have a picture with me with Ron Simmons.
Oh, cool.
The one picture that night that turned out, me and Ron Simmons. So
at least you got the one.
Granted, it's fucking Ron Simmons.
Right.
You've watched enough Ron Simmons to understand.
Yes.
Wait till we get to the Acolytes. I love the APA was some of my favorite. When they're like, how much? Hey, I need you to kick this guy's ass. How much money you got? Yeah, okay, cool. They had this
How
gimmick.
far are we from that?
Oh, years.
Okay.
Multiple years. Multiple years in real life as well, because you're talking like 99, 2000, 2001.
Okay, yeah, that's going to take a while.
They had a gimmick. Once they got through the whole Acolyte Undertaker thing, they had something known as the Acolyte Protection Agency. The skits were great because they would just be guys that were just drinking beer, smoking cigars, and playing poker. They would have the table backstage, and they would have a door set up just like on a frame. No walls, no nothing, just a door. They wanted you to knock on the door, like, show some fucking respect. So you would have, if you would come around the side, they're like, no, there's the door. You know what you need to do. You would knock on the door, like, all right, come in. It was great. And they'd be like, you'd be playing poker or whatever. It's like, hey, I need you to go kick, such and such's ass. Here's the money. But they would also be like, it'd be whoever paid them money that week. They were just like, they would just be like, hitmen for hire. They would beat somebody's ass.
Wow.
Just because they'd be like, hey, I paid you. It would be like, or they would do things where it's like, I would say I would pay them to kick your ass, right?
Right.
You would come in and you would pay them to kick my ass. You know what would happen?
Well, we both get our ass beat.
Absolutely. Hey, they paid us money.
Love it.
And they paid us cash money. And it was great. But yeah, I've actually met Bradshaw too. That was the first wrestler I ever met, actually.
I was going to say, I thought I remembered mentioning that Bradshaw was involved with them at some point.
Yeah, he was Bradshaw and Farouk. That was the Acolytes.
Gotcha.
But yeah, no, he was actually the first wrestler I ever met.
Cool.
And 4 of the Playboy cover models I met were wrestlers too.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. Actually, Sable and Tori Wilson were at that meet and greet when I was in Baghdad that night.
Gotcha.
That was the first 2 I met. I've met Tori Wilson, Sable, Christy Hemme, which somewhere in my parents' house, I actually have an autographed Playboy from Christy Hemme.
Cool.
I met Maria Kanellis at a Ring of Honor show. And it's actually on my Facebook page somewhere. I actually have a picture with me and Maria. And for those that remember the Maxim FHM era of men's magazines, I met Vita Guerra, who I was a massive fan of her back in the day.
Gotcha.
She was a model, and she's still around, but I mean, like, for those, she was on the cover of FHM several times. So if anyone remembers, like, the Maxim FHM era, I've met her.
I never got into those.
I did. I mean, they were made for people like me at that age, because you're talking, I was in my 20s.
Right.
The military actually had their version of one, too, and I can't remember the name of it.
Huh.
There was one you could buy at, like, the PX, that it was like, it was for, like, the Army. You can only get it, like, PX and stuff, but they kind of had their version for a few issues. It's kind of funny.
Gotcha.
But, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a hell of a tangent.
Yeah. Once again, we cannot escape tangents. But I also don't get to tell because of the time frame, I don't get to tell stories like this on the show very often.
Right.
This is like, hey, this is us as wrestling fans. This is what we like.
Yeah, this is who we are.
Yeah, and this was kind of like introduced us to, the guys at Main Event Network, to the fans of their shows. This is kind of us introducing ourselves to them.
And you tell such good stories. I wish I could tell it. I wish I had stories like you do.
Well, like I said, most of these stories that happened to me, I didn't put myself in these situations.
Right, like you said, it just kind of fell in your lap.
Yeah. Like I've been front row at concerts and I've snuck people onto the floor before.
Hmm.
And then come to find out, I found out after the fact that one of the girls we snuck down there, I ran into her at the strip club because I would go to the strip club a lot because I was in the army.
Hmm.
She was working that night.
Oh,
Well, I never went like on Wednesdays. It was
right,
always the
right.
weekend. When the one of the rare times I did, I was like, oh, that's the girl that, you know, she drew on my chest with nail polish, and I had to get nail polish out of nipple hair, and it hurt really bad.
Oh God.
There's a picture floating around on what was Yahoo's photo sharing page? Was it Flickr?
Flickr, yeah, I think so.
There's a picture on Flickr. If if Flickr's still a thing, there is a picture floating around on Flickr somewhere of me. By the way, I had not drinking, but the way the flash was, I looked drunk or high or something.
Oh.
Because there was somebody there that was just taking pictures of the concert, saw
Mhm.
me with my hairy chest, with a smiley face written in bright pink nail polish on my chest, while she's got her arm around me, giving the metal horns, and she was dressed like one of those bright pink and black pink punk schoolgirls.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I didn't expect the night to end up like that.
I mean, who would expect that?
Yeah, but it's
Crazy
very
people,
like
maybe.
like I'm not saying I'm Forrest Gump, but it's and they asked me the stories like I'm not expecting that to ever happen.
Yeah, it just kind of happened.
I'm not one of those that puts myself in the middle of a situation hoping something happens to me.
Right, you just go with the flow.
Yeah, and I'm just like, oh, okay. So, I almost won tickets to Ozfest one time because I lost a Hot Wings from Hell contest and was trying to still eat the chicken. Yeah.
Okay.
Non-wrestling related, but it's basically I wanted to win free beer.
Right. Who would say no to free beer?
I mean, you're not wrong.
I mean, I wouldn't, but I hate the
Yeah,
taste of
but you're not a
alcohol in
drinker, but
general.
I'm just talking about in general.
Right, right.
But and actually the funny thing was, speaking about that contest, there was a sports bar I used to go to. It's I forget the name of it now, but it used to be known as Fort Hood.
Uh-huh.
You know, they've changed a lot of the names of the bases around recently.
Right.
I think it's Fort Cavazos, I think, but Cavazos, or like I said, it was Fort Hood forever. It's one of the biggest military bases. I think it's the biggest army base in the world.
Yeah, it's Fort Cavazos. They changed it right about this time last year,
Yeah,
actually.
but it was Fort Hood when I was there because you're like I said, you're talking almost 25 years ago.
Right.
Right outside one of the gates, there was a bar called. A matter of fact, I can tell a slightly indirectly wrestling story that how the fuck did this happen story.
Okay.
We used to go there for pay-per-views. There was never a cover. You just had to spend $10. So a burger and a couple beers. There's your $10. You could sit there and watch the rest. And they would pack this place for pay-per-views.
Mm-hmm.
So much that even you understand how big football is in Texas, right?
Yes.
During football season, if the Cowboys or the Texans were playing, they would turn off the football game and every pay-per-view, every TV would be for the pay-per-view.
Oh, geez.
Because they would pack the place. They knew they could pack this place. And like I said, $10 minimum, no cover, $10 minimum.
Okay.
Burger and a couple beers. You're going to end up probably buying more than that.
Right.
But basically, burger and a couple beers, $10. And then you sit there and watch wrestling. And I've watched so many pay-per-views and had many drinking stories there. But anyways, I can probably tell the story, and then if we can wrap it up if we have any other mentions.
Mm-hmm.
I was on staff duty one night. It was 24-hour staff duty.
Okay.
Where you just basically answer the phones, but basically all the main offices were always open 20 hours a day. You're behind the desk, making sure shit doesn't go south.
Gotcha.
And I had planned to go to the pay-per-view that to the bar. Matter of fact, it was called Jesters. I don't even know if it's still there.
Gotcha.
While I'm telling the story, look it up and see if Jesters is still around.
Sure.
Jesters in Killeen. Great place too. It was a typical sports bar, but it was a thing. So I was on staff duty that night, Sunday. I had made plans to go, and then I found out I had staff duty that weekend. So we're sitting there, And I was talking to the NCO in charge. I was like, yeah, I was supposed to go to Jester's to watch the pay-per-view. I had plans to go. Me and my roommate had plans to go. Because it's like, not like you can leave staff duty to go to like a movie or a fucking whatever, right?
Right. You were a medic, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think we said that earlier. So
No, it's just, it's whatever.
right.
So he was like, yeah, you can go. If you can find somebody to cover your staff duty, I'll let you go. You just can't drink. Once a big deal. I can drink at a bar, but I don't need to. So I called around. It cost me $60 in cash because it's like, hey, I need you to do staff duty on a Sunday for like 3 hours, and I'm calling you on said Sunday.
Okay.
Yes.
So you basically paid for a pay-per-view to go watch it at the bar.
Yeah, because I was like, hey, I need you to stop what you're doing and enjoying your day off to come cover for me. There needs to be a monetary exchange. You can't just whatever. Cost me $60 to do this.
Gotcha.
Paid him in cash. Everything went fine. That wasn't the part. So we go to Jester's.
Okay.
Have you found it yet?
Yeah, it looks like they're closed.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was a good play. Like I said, I would go sometimes just to hang out anyways.
Gotcha.
It was right out. Anybody that knows Colleen or Fort Hood would know Jester's.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, so we go, and we're sitting there. And at this time, we're there. We sat at, there was a pool table back there.
Mm-hmm.
But we're sitting there watching the TV, and there was a group of people in front of me, who I found out after the fact were also in the Army. So there was a group of 4 in front of me. Me and my buddy were watching it, and there was a big group of rowdy people behind me. But I'm like, it's a bar. I'm just going to ignore them. I'm just watching sweaty men roll over each other.
Right.
So I'm sitting there. I'm, once again, not drinking because I had to go back to staff duty. Once again, I don't have, I would, I don't have to, I can enjoy a beer at dinner, or we're going to the bar. Don't need to drink.
Right.
So it wasn't hard for me to have, pop while I'm, eating my burger or whatever.
Yeah.
And the I don't know if she was a server or the manager or whatever. The group behind us was rowdy. One of them got caught giving somebody underage alcohol.
Whoops.
At a bar, which you can't do that. Like, this wasn't like a bar. This was like a sports bar, like a Hooters or any kind of sports bar. You can go have kids there eat. You just can't give them alcohol. This was like a sports bar.
Right.
Almost like a B-dubs almost. Kids can go to B-dubs. It's a thing.
Yeah, B-dubs gives me good context.
Yeah, okay, so it's like a B-dubs. Like, of course, the bar's the big thing, but, there's a big menu. Kids can come to eat at B-dubs or whatever, right?
Right.
B-dubs is a sports bar.
Mm-hmm.
So, she's like, all right, you guys got to go. And most of them are angry, but the one guy's just being extra belligerent. Because, you just got a whole group kicked out, but it's like, hey, you're giving people alcohol that's underage, you all got to go. I ain't trying to lose a liquor license, because anybody that knows anything about restaurants, liquor licenses are fucking expensive.
And yeah, I'm sure. What is it? ATF, I think, alcohol, tobacco, firearms. I'm sure they take that shit seriously.
Actually, they also add fireworks too. It's now alcohol, tobacco, ATF with the invisible F, because it's alcohol, tobacco, firearms, and fireworks.
Huh?
Yeah, I know it's a recent thing, but yeah. So apparently the second F is silent. So we're sitting there and we're listening to it, but I'm like, hey, no, I'm very. If it doesn't affect me directly, none of my business.
Right.
It'll be a cool story, but like, I just watched it get kicked out. So we're sitting there, we're watching wrestling. It was actually, if I remember correctly, because I have a crazy memory when it comes to wrestling, you know this.
I do know that.
It was No Way Out 2005. Because this was I remember specifically, because it was about a month before John Cena won the world title for the first time.
Okay.
And the main event was JBL when he, the last pay-per-view, he was, he left as champion. Uh-huh. JBL and the Big Show in a barbed wire cage match.
Yikes.
But the only thing is the barbed wire was only on the top of the cage, so it really was basically a cage match that had a little barbed wire on top. And the barbed wire that barbed wire had no effect on the match at all.
Gotcha.
But they're like, oh, it's a barbed wire cage match, and we're just going to sprinkle it on top, and it's not going to affect the match at all.
Just a little bit of seasoning.
Basically. So it was a part. If the cage match was food, the barbed wire was parsley. It had nothing. It was just there for show.
Gotcha.
So anyway, and we're watching, and I'm just like saying, I'm listening to it, but I'm focused. Like I said, I'm focusing on the sweaty men in their underwear rolling over each other.
As you do.
And yes, you do. I mean, I paid money to watch guys glisten while I eat a cheeseburger. So I guess now it was a waitress, and then one of the managers comes over. She's like, "Look, you got to leave." And he goes, and I'm saying that once again, we're about an hour 20 into this. I can say this because YouTube's rules. You can't cuss too much. Oh. He
Right.
goes, "Fuck you, bitch! I ain't leaving until I finish my motherfucking beer."
Well then.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just like, oh, okay. And she comes back and she's like, "Look, okay, now you're banned." He goes, "No, fuck you, bitch. You can make if you want me to leave, make me."
Oh boy.
So once again, there was a group of 4 people in the table in front of us, me and my buddy behind them, and then we were in between. We had the table of 4 people, the belligerent people. We were the table in between them.
Okay.
And one of the guys at the table in front of us, he's going to do the right thing. He's like, "Hey, come on, let's not cause a scene. Come on, let's just cut the shit off right now. Let's not make a scene. Let's everybody go their separate ways. We're all trying to have a good time here. Whatever." So the guy wants to fight him.
Oh boy.
All of a sudden, here comes the drunk guy and his buddies grab pool sticks from the pool table. Right?
Right.
I don't think I've actually ever told you this story.
No, I've never heard this one.
So, and I look, and his buddies are watching this because they're watching their buddy about to get jumped. And I look at my buddy. You see the other guys look like they're getting ready to do something, right? The 3 left at the table, right?
Uh-huh.
I look at my buddy. He looks at me. We shake our heads. My hat comes off. My glasses come off. The one guy at the table in front of us, his cowboy hat comes off. All of a sudden, you just see 5 chairs in unison go, "Err!"
Oh boy.
And mind you, I'm not even supposed to be there.
Right.
And all of a sudden, everybody's watching this. You actually hear somebody go, "Oh shit!" because all of a sudden it went from 3-on-1 with weapons. All of a sudden it went to 6-on-3 because we were going to beat these dudes' ass.
Oh god.
And as soon as the odds, how was it that made the odds forever be in your favor?
Something like that.
Was it like Star Wars or Gandalf or some shit?
I'm not sure. I'll look it up.
But you know what I'm saying? It's like, may the odds forever be in your favor.
Oh, it's Hunger Games.
Hunger Games. I've literally read the first book. It wasn't for me.
I've never read any of them, haven't seen the movies.
I read the first book. I actually did read the first Hunger Games book. It wasn't for me. Not saying it was bad. I don't like to shit on stuff. It just wasn't for me.
I gotcha.
That's what it was. It was so the odds for. So when the odds were not in their favor anymore,
they tucked tail and ran, basically.
100%.
Well then.
And then I went and finished. Can you just imagine the trouble I get into? Because there's a bar fight. All of a sudden, now you're in handcuffs. And not only do I have to explain to, the company commander, the first sergeant, why I was at a bar, getting into a fight, getting arrested. Why were you not at staff duty? Why were you at a sports bar being staff duty? So now I'm going to get in trouble by the first sergeant and the commander. Now the NCO is going to get in trouble because he let me go to said bar to go to staff instead of staff duty to go to the pay-per-view. And then I'm going to get in trouble for him from getting into trouble. For getting him into trouble, I'm going to get in trouble from him.
Whole shit show.
Yeah. And it was just because I wanted to watch sweaty men roll over each other in barbed wire. Like I said, wrestling, I've done a lot of crazy shit when it comes to wrestling.
You were not kidding. I think that's the craziest story you've ever told me.
Yeah. But I was like, I ain't going to let the dude get stomped out for doing the right thing.
Right.
So I'm just like, you know me, I don't fight.
You do not.
I would never say I'm a fight. I had a little bit of the combative training in the Army. I trained a little bit at an MMA school in Texas before I got out. I was trained in wrestling, but they always taught us, like, hey, if somebody gets smarter than you and tries to shoot on you in wrestling, this is how you protect yourself. So I do know a couple things.
Right.
I would never call myself a fighter. I would almost bet against myself in a fight.
Gotcha.
I can, throw a punch, but chances are I'm going to get stomped too.
Uh-huh.
However, at a last resort, I have no problems if it's a situation like that.
Right.
I'll jump
Doing
in.
the right thing.
Yeah. I just would rather be like, I would rather get in an argument with a guy at a bar. He wants to fight. I was like, hey, let's just squash this. We'll go, I'll go my way, you go yours. Matter of fact, I'll buy you a beer right now. I'll buy your next drink for you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll buy you a beer. One of us goes that way. One of us goes the other way. It's over with. You enjoy your beer. I'll do that.
Yeah,
first.
I gotcha.
I will do that. I would rather just be like, hey, come on. Next round's on me. We'll just go about our business.
Right, just squash it.
Yeah. Because once again, scary thought. That's how we used to do it when I was growing up. You squashed it. You never did other shit. You didn't want to fight, but then if you did fight, people like to fight dirty and jump people 20 on ones. Like, nah. You would have your people surround the fight. I'd have my people surround the fight. Once the fight was over with, we the business we had was squashed. We went our separate directions.
Right.
You can't do it anymore, which I think is a load of bullshit.
Uh-huh.
But anyways, that's basically our year zero. That's us as a wrestling fan.
Yes, who we are and what we're about.
So, in 2 weeks, we do this for those that are new to the show. We are bi-weekly. In 2 weeks, we are going to do the first Raw episode in about a month in '93. It was about a month.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be WWF Monday Night Raw, because we do, for those that are not familiar with us, we do Monday Night Raw and WCW Saturday Night, as those are basically the flagship shows of both promotions.
Right.
We do all the television wrestling, and then when we have pay-per-views come up, the pay-per-views get their own dedicated episode, because once again, length, the matches are usually bigger, we can go more into depth on the matches.
Right.
So, funny fact, that's happening here soon, because in 2 weeks, we're going to have WWF Raw and WCW Saturday Night.
Yeah, that's going to be for the week of September 13th, 1993.
The day before my mom's birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 weeks after that, we're going to do a pay-per-view. It's going to be Fall Brawl with War Games.
Mm-hmm.
We'll save the clip for the show.
Right.
War Games. And it's actually good. Sounds like so far it'll be a decent card with a lot of some good matches, but a lot of it is like, fuck it, we had nothing else to do. You're in a match now.
Right. Yeah, I've kind of seen that as I've watched the control centers.
Yeah, from what I've read, from what I've read and researched, the years prior, this is not going to be a good show.
Oh boy.
So you can, once again, thank you everybody for listening to us. I also want to give a big shout out to the guys at the Main Event Wrestling Network for letting us be a part of the family. I much appreciated. Guys, please, we'll put the link to their link tree or whatever in the descriptions for everything. Go watch them. Like I said, they have a bunch of awesome podcasts. They have a bunch of great articles. They have a YouTube channel, especially if you like a lot of the newer stuff. They do a lot of like post-show events and stuff. And also, big ups to them for, how we've always talked about how there's a lot of shows. One of the goals for our show is we've always wanted to sponsor. You know how you can, give money to like an indie show, you can sponsor a wrestler. And you can sponsor a wrestler, you can sponsor a match.
Right. For
the first time, Main Event is doing that, so you can see them sponsored the Wrestlers Lab. They have a show coming up on May 26th, so actually 2 weeks from today, from the day of this recording.
Mm-hmm.
They have a show called Oh My Glob. And Main Event is actually one of the sponsors. It is May 26th at the Mecca in Ridgefield Park, New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
And if you follow indie wrestling, especially the Northeast, you'll recognize a lot of these. Matter of fact, I'm looking at one right now that you know of. Fucking Speedball Mike Bailey's going to be there.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah. I'm a big Speedball fan, and I'm sure you became a fan after Against All Odds last year.
Oh, yes, I certainly did.
Yeah, so Speedball, among other people, because I'm just looking at his match right now, Speedball's going to be there. Like I said, a lot of guys, if you are familiar with the Northeast wrestling, the New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania area.
Yeah, I gotcha.
You're going to know these guys. So, yep, they're one of the sponsors of that show. Main Event is a sponsor of one of those shows like I said, in 2 weeks from today, from the recording of this. But once again, go check them out. Great guys. Read their articles. Follow them follow all the shows on social medias as well. Like I said, they have the On the Mark podcast, and I know only because I have it open up as a tab right now. But there's just so many podcasts, especially if you like the new stuff.
Yeah, there's a discussion show on their main YouTube channel called Violent Rant, where the guy talks about Raw. They have the guy talk about Raw and SmackDown and pay-per-views, basically the same as we do. I really like that one so far.
Yeah, like I said, it's just one thing I always want to do. It's a great show where there's a lot of different voices.
Yes.
And if podcasts for some reason are not a thing, one, why the fuck are you listening to us right now? Or if you like reading articles too, they have on their own website, on the main event website, they have a lot of articles written up there. So whether you're a video watcher, a podcast listener, a blog reader, they have everything basically.
There's something for you.
Basically, like I said, they're fantastic people. So I personally want to thank them for giving us the opportunity to be a part of the network.
Oh, yeah, I'm looking forward to working with them.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find us, for those that aren't familiar with us, you can find us on YouTube, Rumble, and about as many podcasting websites as you can find. And I finally started it up again. We are on capital D and capital A Podcast One on Twitter. We're going to start using that again. I've posted some fun stuff about what we do here. I also posted, because we were talking about Ric Flair going 60 minutes regularly.
Mm-hmm.
I posted a match with him with one of my favorites, Bruiser Brody from '82. It was in St. Louis, but the commentary is in Japanese.
Yeah, I noticed that. I tried watching, like, the commentary being in the wrong language really took me out of it.
Yeah, but, mute it or whatever, listen to music. But the fact that it's Ric Flair versus Bruiser Brody for an hour is fucking fantastic.
Right.
So where can we find you, sir, and you and your projects and your situation?
I am at Bigboct, BIGBOCT, pretty much everywhere. I'm working on using my Twitter more often. I actually have a personality page on Facebook that I use to interact there with I interact a lot in the neurodivergent space with that page. It's Bigboct, middle-aged autistic, if you want to look me up there. Going for Twitch, I spent about 2 hours today trying to figure out why my capture card wasn't capturing audio. And eventually I figured out it was because my audio was outputting to my headset, not to my HDMI.
Yeah.
So I just need to output to two different instead of one,
Oh, yeah. Trust me, that's the best. That's the worst thing about streaming is that if you don't have a tech problem, you're not doing it right.
Yeah, I was actually futzing around with that when you said you were ready to record. I think that's why we had that little hiccup earlier.
Yeah, which is, once again, if you don't have a tech problem, are you actually creating content?
Yeah. Where can we find you, Xander?
I'm at Xander and Victus everywhere. I started using Instagram. You can see our behind the scenes pics because Bach and I went to go see Halocene a couple weeks ago. Finally, fucking phenomenal show.
Yeah, Icon for Hire and Citizen Soldier were great too.
Yeah, I went in as a fan of one band, came out as a fan of 3 bands. That's a good show.
I went in as a fan of Zero. You were my introduction to Halocene. Came out a fan of all 3 as well.
Exactly. And even better is because I was using Stream Tunes, and I guess they're being dissolved and everything's going to the winds. Mm-hmm. Which sucks because that's what I use for like breaks on my stream and before the show starts.
Gotcha.
I found out Halocene has a stream-friendly playlist. It's all their original music.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's specifically, it even says stream-friendly. Like, you can use it for, your vlogs and stuff like this. So I'm just like, so anybody that doesn't know how Halocene is, come listen to my Twitch streams. I listen to them before the show every fucking night, so.
That's great, man.
Yeah, so Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. I'm starting to do a little bit more with Instagram. Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, I do WWE 2K24. Mondays and Tuesdays, my faction. Thursdays and Fridays, I do Xander 3 shows where I have my universe mode where I make my own created character. And I wrestle on Raw, NXT, and SmackDown all at the same time. So
yeah, I've tuned into a few of those. They're great.
Yeah, I've done 3 months in game, and I've already had 30 or 40 matches.
Wow.
Yeah, and I accidentally won the world title my very first show.
How did that happen by accident?
I don't know, because I'm doing this, and because, at the time, Damian Priest was the Money in the Bank guy even in-game, right?
Right.
I had a match with Seth Rollins was my first show. And then, according to them, so, okay, I'm going to cash it in. So, even though after I had the match with Seth, Damian's going to cash it in, even though it told me that I was the Money in the Bank guy, which I didn't cash it in. One, I wasn't Money in the Bank because it was the very first show in the universe. And I didn't have, so Damian's going to cash it in, right? So I win the match. So literally the first episode of the universe mode, week 1, show 1, I win the fucking world title.
What it sounds to me is that Damian cashed it in, made it a triple threat, and then you won the match.
But it was after I had the match. They added, so it would, the universe be weird sometimes, because tell me how I had a feud on NXT with Dominic Mysterio for his North American title. And then in the pay-per-view, he loses it to Gunther, and I have a one-off match with Baron Corbin.
Huh?
Yeah, no, that happened. 100% happened.
Weird.
But right now I have a feud with. I have a feud in all 3 shows, and I actually made a tag team, so it's me and the Fiend Bray Wyatt, specifically the Fiend, because there's
Ooh.
about four Bray Wyatts in the game.
Rest in peace.
Yep, because you got the regular Bray Wyatt, you got the Fiend, you got the Firefly Funhouse host Bray Wyatt, and I think you have the NWO Bray Wyatt from the Firefly Funhouse match.
Mhm.
There's about 4 Bray Wyatts in the game. So I'm using the Fiend itself. So me and the Technical Slasher is teamed up with Bray Wyatt as I named him the Final Nightmare.
Ooh.
And our finisher is a combination of the Mandible Claw into the Sister Abigail.
Cool.
Yeah. So I have a tag team with Bray Wyatt. I'm also the world champion. So I just put up a short yesterday of my signature and finisher combo. The Heart Punch I call the Molar Ram Extraction
Mhm.
because of the whole Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom ripping the heart
Right.
out of the guy. Yeah, I call it the Molar Ram Extraction, and I yell Kali Mala every time I hit it too. So
That's why you do that. Okay.
yeah, if you see the Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, you get it. That's where it
It's
comes
been a
from.
long time, but I have.
That's where it comes from.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I put up my shorts on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. I'm trying to figure out how to get the formatting correctly so I can show the whole clip, and it's enlarged for some reason. Once again, I never posted a short on Instagram. YouTube, I post all my shorts, and then I try to do the occasional video. Like I'm trying to do GM mode again. My audio was fucked up for the last one. I may redo it. So I'm gonna try to do
Mhm.
that weekly now that I got the audio fixed. So
Gotcha.
yeah, find me everywhere. If you don't like wrestling, why the hell you listen to this? And but yeah. So once again, thank you to the main event guys for bringing us in. Thank you everybody for listening, and we will see you 2 weeks.
Take care.